Hello again. So I'm back with another update on my 2006 Impala SS restoration project. Progress of my project. So anyway, what you're looking at here is the progress I've made on the rocker panels, and as I've talked about before, I've got a brand new inner rocker panel from GM here, and then this one here, I had to save it. It was the original one, and I had to reconstruct it. Half of it was gone. What you're looking at here, this back half was gone, completely non-existent. I had to make that, and here's kind of where I splice things together, and here's the weld where the entire bottom half is gone. I had to make that, and then I had to come around here, and I had to hammer these contours in here so they match up, and you can see it's kind of hard to see with the burn paint, but anyway, these are welded in now. So here's the new one, and you can see where I've spot welded these cross members. That this whole thing is going to form a structural member. Now, it is not welded. This top pinch weld is not welded on yet. That has to be left free for now because there's something that's going to sandwich in the middle of there, and then it's going to form a three-ply pinch weld. But anyways, yeah, what needs to go in there is these reinforcements that I cooked up. So, and these are homemade, and I took what was left of the top section. This is what's going to go in that pinch weld, and this is going to protrude out the bottom on the B-pillar, and it comes out right here, and those two will sandwich together, and those will all be plug welded. And so that's why these two pieces here, I've got two of them that I made, are all they're nice and heavy and strong too. They need to be. That rocker panel forms a structural, like an integral unitized frame member. So anyways, yeah, that's what goes in there. So the whole top of this has to be left open, so that reinforcement slips inside of there. And then so what I had to do with my slather coat that I've been talking about, probably know what that is by now. Anyways, inside of here has been recoated because when I welded all this, it burned. Because all of this stuff was painted, and then everywhere I welded, that burned the paint. And what's going to happen is now something is going to be assembled on top of this, and then so it'll be hidden. So what's got to happen is all the burned paint, you can see. If you can see what you're looking at here, you can see where the welds came through, and that was all burned like a dumpster fire, and that had to be all cleaned up, sanded with abrasives, and all inside of here, everything's been recoated. You see where I had a whole bunch of welding, had to be plug welded through there. So anyway, that's the step. In between steps is you have to, anything that's going to be hidden and built up on top of it, something built up on top of it, well, first thing you have to do is recoat it. And so everything in there is going to be solidly coated, and like I've said before, this is a huge advantage over what they give you from the factory, because what they do from the factory is they weld the whole darn thing together, okay, all bare. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. What they do is they have the entire thing all welded complete, and then they dunk it in a great big vat of primer. And well, there's some drawbacks to that. Like, one problem is the primer material has to be watery thin, because you can't dunk in something that's thick. You'll have drips and icicles just hanging off. It's got to be watery thin. And well, the problem with that is, this dunk, and this is some of it here, the dunk is fine, except for when you get to the bottom of the vehicle, and it's the film thickness is so thin that it just doesn't have any durability. with long-term salt spray, even places that were not exposed, just rotted away. It'll last 5 years because that's the manufacturer warranty for the rust through is 5 years, and that's all they're going to give you. They're going to give you enough to get through the warranty period. They're not selling you cars that are going to last 40 years without rusting away. That's your problem. So from what I've learned, in the last decade or so, is that if you buy a new car and you don't want it, you want to be able to drive it in the rust belt and you don't want it rusting out in about 5 years, you have to disassemble the car to this level, okay, to a bare frame, and then you're going to have to apply coatings, all right, and you'll have to apply them internally with all sorts of, snorkel nozzles and do whatever you have to do, okay, but you're going to have to expose every hidden area, and you're going to have to apply coatings to it because this factory dunk, it's watery thin, it's not durable, and it's going to give out in a few years. So what I've done here is, things are coated internally, inside and out, with a very thick, durable coating. This stuff is just ridiculously rugged, ridiculously thick, and as you can see, I've coated the entire thing back here. But anyways, getting back to the rockers, what I have to do is internally coat before building up to the next step, and so that's been done now. I'm ready to build up to the next step, so I'm ready to install both of these internal reinforcements, and they're all going to get welded up, and these pinch welds are going to be realigned and closed shut. And so yeah, anyways, I lost track of what I do with my light here. Here I have it. And come around here. Well, there's in here I did the welds differently on this side. I drilled holes in the rocker, and the reason why is because, as you can see here, see that weld, the entire outer about 2.5 inches or so of this floor was just, I spliced on a new piece because it was all rusted so bad. So from end to end, it's just a new piece I welded on there, and the other side didn't need that. So the other side was welded from the bottom because the holes were already there, and this side I decided it was easier to weld from the top, obviously, so I put the holes in the top. So that's where I plug welded through there, and you can see where I've been in here, and you can see where I Frankenstein this whole thing together, where up above was where the old panel was still there, and down below is where there was nothing, and this is all I made this. And here's where I spliced it together here, and you can see this. You can see the weld. It's hard to point with my hand while holding the light, but that's where the weld comes through there, and I had to bend those contours, and you can see I had to, so I had to meet that all up to where it welds there and everything, and form that into one contiguous unit. Here's where I welded all this stuff together. There's a lot of plies that have to go together. Another interesting thing is this firewall section is 2-ply. And the reason why they did that is because they couldn't make this stamping out of heavy enough gauge. They probably wanted it to be about 18 gauge, same as this. This is about 18 gauge. And they couldn't do it in one thickness. So they used 2-ply. I'm guessing when they tried to stamp it, to make those contours, to make that stamping, they couldn't get it to come out, without wrinkles and stuff. So they had to have 2-ply. And what they've done is it's 2-ply with, they sprayed polymer in between the 2 plies. And I don't know if you can see that. If you can see it right there. I need a third hand. But right there. Okay, this sheet metal is actually 2 thin plies, like about, I think it's about 22 gauge sandwiched together. So this stuff is hard to work with when it comes to welding it. It's tricky. So, and then I had to make, there's that on the outer, and then there's this, and then there's the inner rocker on the inside there. So there's a 3-ply plug weld you got to make in there. You got to go deep. You got to turn in the heat. Make sure you turn up the heat. Make sure you get penetration down there and everything. Well, I got it, okay, but it ain't pretty, okay, and it don't have to be pretty. So, all you professional welders out there, and you know, if it doesn't satisfy your sense of aesthetics, don't worry, man. It's just got to be good enough to hold, and nobody ever sees that. It gets a bead of caulk. If you see right here, this, I had to strip all this caulk. This comes from the factory with this very thick bead of caulk that just goes the entire length of everything, you know, from front to back. This whole thing here, caulk. So anyway, yeah. Then, you know, the other issue is there is obviously where you have areas like this here. Well, there's burned weld inside of there. Well, I got a solution for that too, and that's this stuff. This internal frame coating, good stuff. This is made to go inside of frame rails where there's already rust inside there and you can't get at it, and so it coats things internally. It's runny, it's made to penetrate. You shoot it with this snorkel here, and the snorkel's got a little 4-way spray nozzle on the end of it, and the reason why I've got it on this solvent is what I use to clean out the snorkel after in between uses. So it's pretty handy for that. So that's why it's on here. So anyway, I call this stuff frame shot. And everywhere that I can't get with a brush when it comes to recoating, where I know I've got to get in because I've got burned paint in there from welds, that's all going to get frame shot in there. So I got a plan for that too. Everything that can't get hit with a brush with a slather coat gets frame shot. And you know, you're gonna spend a lot of man hours and a lot of material, and that's the way it works, man. Whatever it takes. So that's all going to get frame shotted in there. There's a little spot here where some of that frame shot. I already shot these internally. These here, I shot them before I welded this on here, before I closed this off. So this thing's been shot with frame shot, and there's some where the frame shot ran out right there, and you can see it's been a few days, and it's still, it kind of stays gooey. It is not undercoating. Okay, this is a paint product. Okay, it is not tar undercoating. It's paint, and you can. It'll eventually get harder than this. It's a few days old, and it's so thick. But I need to clean this off of there anyway. I'm not going to leave that there, so I'm going to scrape it off anyway. But that's where the frame shot. Most of it I wiped away. It was running out everywhere. I mean, it was just all over. You can see where I wiped it off here. And yeah, what I did here was I only did the outer 6 inches of the floor because I'm going to do the center of the floor later after I get this thing on a rotisserie. So I'm not going to bother with the center of the floor. I have to deal with the outer 6 inches of the floor where it mates up with the rocker for obvious reasons to get those squared up. I can't put this thing on a rotisserie till the rockers are intact and everything. All of the new frame rails, front and rear, they all have to be on there, or else it won't be able to support on a rotisserie. Here's another thing. You may notice there's some what looks like misalignment here with these holes, and no, that is not misaligned. What happens is this has to be this outer skin right now. This is free. If you can, I don't know if you can see that. This whole thing is free. You see it move. This whole thing is free right now. The whole, if you can see it move back there, I don't know if you can see that, but I'm moving this whole darn thing. It's free. And what happens is when, this is where I separated it, there's a section of the rocker panel, or the door sill skin is missing, and it goes up to here, and I have to section that back in. I have that piece, it's over here, and it needs to be, you know, it's got to clean it up on the inside a little bit, but I have this piece. It's got to be sectioned back in. Well, what happens is when this is a heavy reinforcement here, and it's all going to get, it's going to be part of the heavy reinforcement going here. It's all going to be unitized to weld together in one unit. But then in order to finish this out, I'll have to realign this, and what will happen is I will take my aligning punch, and you know, I don't know if you can see it move forward there. Moves forward about 1/4 of an inch when I align it. So that's what will happen. You know, that's by design. What I already have figured out here is this inner rocker piece. It's located to this A-pillar that is stationary, that does not move, and everything from the B and C pillar back has to move forward in order to meet it. And I already have its locations all preserved because I already have original existing holes here, and makes it real easy. So I had holes up front here, makes it real easy to put this back in the exact same spot where it used to be. And so all of that's been carefully measured, calculated. That's one of the reasons why this stuff takes so long. You got to sit and figure it all out, how this is all going to go together. And you know, I'm just a hobbyist, not a professional who does this for a living. So I just figure this stuff out as I go along. There's another thing here, another trick. In order to do plug welds, you've got to have pieces of copper to back up the plug welds. And here's another little thing I did was, there's some times where you got to have a piece of copper that can get into a real tight, small area. And I have these little pieces of copper. What I did here is I took just some copper tubing, flexible copper tubing, took a couple inches of tubing and slid it lengthwise with some snips, and then hammered it out flat, and then cut pieces as needed in order. You know, here's another one, and you know, you can get them into little tight spots, clamp it up. You got a nice little piece of copper there, you know. And I have big copper paddles that get them into places. These are made to mount to a handle and go in places. But yeah, you got to have copper. Here's another thing you need. If you're going to do this kind of work, you need a lot of clamps, man. That's not even half what I have right there. That's just the ones I got out right now, and you know, but anyway, yeah. When you line all this stuff up, and you're gonna, you know, you can see here the that 1/4 inch of shift that's got to happen there, and yeah, don't worry, folks. That's by design. And then when you get everything lined up, you gotta clamp it like 20 ways to Sunday, man. And it's just gonna have clamps all over it, and once you got it clamped as much as you can clamp it, you start welding it together. So anyway, yeah, then going back here, this whole darn thing, this whole back half has been just completely just slathered inside and out with ridiculously tough coatings. You know, if you can see that, it just goes everywhere, all the way, everywhere. You know, inside of here, you can see where I need a third hand here. But anyway, you know, this all pinch welds together. By the time I get done, this pinch welds to the outer tub. Okay, but for now I separated this. This is a reinforcement, and this is the outer skin. And I separated this and kind of bent it open, and that's so I could get in there with a brush. And that stuff is all slathered in there, very thoroughly coated, and you know, it's never going to rust. When you see what I did here is I need another hand here. Okay, this is a patch that I welded in here. There was a hole, and this whole lip is welded in because it was gone, it was rusted. So this whole lip is welded in, and the thing I like about this slather coat, you can see there's a little bit of this isn't really a butt weld. There's a tiny little bit of lap, not much, maybe about an 1/8 inch, and so the slather coat gets in there, and you can see it foams. Okay, once this slather coat gets built up to a certain thickness in there while it's liquid, it has a foaming action like urethane glue does, because it's a urethane product. And so it gets inside of there, and then it just foams up and fills the gap. So you don't even have to really try to daub it in there, let it run it in there. And this all just foamed its way in there. And it fused the whole thing together and just filled everything. So it has great sealing properties, okay, when you need these things to be sealed watertight from the inside. So all of my welds here, you know, if there was a microscopic pinhole or something, I mean, I checked it with a light, okay, but, you know, if I missed anything, this stuff will just get in there. So that's a welded on. This is my own hand work there, and you know, we got and there's this end panel, patches there, more patches there where, you know, stuff was just gone, patch there, and you know, this whole this is the again, this is going to make a 3-ply sandwich. So this is where I had to just cut this away because it was so rusty. And all this is just a continuation of this panel and the two halves of the wheel tubs, the inner and the outer. It makes a 3-ply pinch weld right there. And so I just had to get some new metal and weld that on there. And that's all been slathered. and everything up in there has been slathered. And you know, it basically I went up to a line where, you know, there's some point where you just don't have to go any higher because it's not rusting up there. But I went pretty high up in there. Everything, you know, everything to about that line is just going to be completely slathered, and in and out, you know, inside of here. This is all on the inside. I went in here with I bent an acid brush, made a little bent handle like a hockey stick to get inside there. This is all inside and out. You know, anywhere it's coated in places where the sun don't shine, and you know, so very thoroughly coated inside and out. And you know, come back out to the end panel. You can see I talked about these patches before. There's a patch there. You know, that's where I patched the end panel here, and you got this forms a 3-ply pinch weld when the trunk floor goes back in there. That makes a tongue and groove in there. That's going to go there, and you know, when this all gets welded back together, and all these things have to be aligned, and then you got to plug weld all those holes, and I don't know what else here. And then, oh yeah, talk about like where I welded this. I don't know if you can see that, where I put the okay, I've got to make a finished, let me try to get some light here. Okay, I've got to make a finished contour here, and I don't know if you can see that, but when I started out, I just welded a flat piece of metal in there, but I've got to make a contour where you see you know, there's a body line there. It just, if you can see that, it just, you know, follows, and then that body line's got to come through this weld, and it's got to continue on. If you can see right where my finger is there. And what I did there, I'm trying to get a better look at that. Anyway, not like that, okay? You can see the weld, and then you can see the ridge. I made that ridge by just hammering that in there by hand. So, and what I did was, you know, that's going to be, right now that's rough, and the only reason why I painted this is so you can see, because I have to see what I'm doing, so to check the contour, and it looks pretty decent. Okay, it's not perfect. There's probably guys in the world who could do better metal work than that, but like I said, I'm just an amateur. But what's got to happen is all of this paint's got to get stripped off, and it's got to be ground, you know, nice and clean with teeth on it, and then this is going to get finished with Bondo. And the point I'm making here is, when I finish this with Bondo, you're never going to know. Okay, it's that sheet metal is worked well enough that I can keep the Bondo thickness down without being excessive, and magnets will stick to that when I'm done. It'll be undetectable, because I'm going to keep the filler down to a very very thin, reasonable thickness, and that's how Bondo is. When you have it reasonable, it's when it's not done improperly and excessive, it's fine. It's not a sin, okay? It's only a sin when you lay it on too thick. I can show you some other things. Like I got a magnet here, and here's a piece. So I've got this. I cut a piece of this. This is just refrigerator magnet here, you see, and you know, so it'll stick the metal right there, okay. And this is just to prove another point. Here's a little story on my Avalanche here. What you're looking at, this is the top pinch weld of the left rear door on the cab of my Avalanche. I did this like about, I don't know, about 5 years ago it was. Did this work 4 or 5 years ago, and what you're looking at here is, this is the outer skin, and you can see it's rusted, so gone. I had to cut it off. This is the inner, that this makes a pinch weld. So then this too was just so horribly rusted, I had to cut it off, and I had to just cut me a couple of pieces of metal that replicated these shapes. And what happens here is these two sandwich on top of each other. You can see the holes line up, and they make a pinch weld. And this is right at the window opening, okay, the top of the door, right at the base of the window opening. And I'll show you where this goes. So I'll take this with me, show you where it came from. I saved it as a souvenir. right there. That's where that went. Okay. It goes underneath that trim that just snaps on there and gives you that's your window squeegee for this back door. Okay, so I'll get rid of that, but basically what I'm telling you is this is weld right here. Goes all the way back to about there. Okay, so you can look at the whole door. It basically, if you're looking at the whole door, it goes like halfway across. Okay, all in here. This is weld. Okay, so there's Bondo there, and I told you before that the only place that has Bondo is right here. Well, I lied, and that's because I forgot. I forgot about this here, and there's Bondo all through here because there had to be a weld right here, and there was heat warpage, and I had to hammer it back and everything, and then so, you know, you can see the body work. You'd never detect that. Okay, you'd have to really know what you're looking for visually, and you'd probably not spot it. Okay, and the reason, it's got to be perfect, it's got to be straight, because this vehicle is black and you ain't gonna get away with it. Okay, and then so anyway, here's my magnet. It sticks on there, and I'm telling you, there's Bondo there. Okay, sticks on there, sticks on there. I'm telling you, there's Bondo there. There's a weld, and it looks a lot like what I showed you on that wheel opening on the Impala back there. Looked a lot like that, and you know, you're not going to find it. You might be able to find it with an electronic thickness meter. Okay, but you know, and you just look at the whole thing, and you know, if you eyeball this thing up in the sun or whatever, you're not going to see. Okay, because it came out right. It has to come out right. Okay, and then you know, just to look at the other side. The other side had no work like that done at all, and you know, so you look at what both sides look like. Okay, and that's what they're supposed to do. One side's supposed to look just like the other. This side has not been adulterated. So yeah, that's the other example of where I did a little bit of Bondo. And yeah, another thing, I don't know, I just want to talk about how I'm using a couple of different kind of welders here. You know, I got 3 welders. I got a TIG welder, and I got a MIG welder, and I got oxyacetylene torch that I can weld with, and I can weld stick too if I need to. And anyways, I was using TIG on a lot of things on the truck, and I've kind of gravitated to where I'm using almost all MIG everywhere. And one of the things I found about TIG is it's real fussy. It doesn't tolerate any surface contamination at all. You run across any surface contamination and it'll immediately spatter. It will it'll pollute the tip of your tungsten, and then you gotta, you know, your arc starts to go astray, and then you gotta regrind your tungsten. It's a really it's a pain in the butt. It just doesn't like, it doesn't tolerate, you know, when you've got, if you run into a little bit of galvanizing, a little bit of paint, a little bit of, you know, surface contamination, it just doesn't like it. It's a big pain in the ass. Here's another thing. It takes 2 hands. You can't work one-handed with a TIG, and you can work one-handed. And I found, you know, even when I'm using TIG, I'm still tacking. Okay, all the tack operations being done with a MIG. And I started to realize, you know, you can just weld the whole darn thing with a MIG, maybe even run a bead. You know, it has its advantages and disadvantages, but I seem to be using the MIG more and more and more. But the TIG still has its places. One of the things the TIG helped me out with back on the Avalanche, and I'll show you that, is I had a spot where I had to come up to an edge, and the edge was blowing through. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, it was blowing through because I did it with a TIG. I'll show you. So when I was doing this gas door, okay, this, I talked about this before. This is all patch. It goes, there's a welded seam that goes right across here, and it goes down underneath where you can't see, and it comes underneath, and it comes up, and it comes up right about there. Okay, so what you're looking at here, this, all you're looking at here, this is homemade, and it actually starts right at the line of this mounting point. So this screw is mounted to original panel, and this screw underneath, and everything beneath this top screw is all mounted to my welded on patch. And like I said before, there's a line of Bondo here because there's a weld there and a magnet sticks to that. But then talking about this little problem I had up here where I had to come up here with the weld and I had to go finish right to the edge. And it was right here and it had to look good. And there's no Bondo on this. It just has to be metal there, and it is. Well, what happened is I kept blowing through with the TIG, blowing through, and I'm telling you, I just couldn't get it. And this edge has got to be complete. A better welder than I could have done it, but I'm not a pro welder. But the solution that I figured out was I took the MIG and this blown through edge, I dabbed a little bit on there, and it was cold though, okay? It was cold enough, it was cold but hot enough to stick. So I had a little gob laying on that blown through edge, and it was cold, but just hot enough to stick. Then I took the TIG, okay, without any filler material, and I just took the TIG and laid a soft arc on there and just very carefully melted it until it melted in, a little more, just melted in, and it worked. And then that gave me an edge there that was clean enough, and I could clean that up with a file and make that all look right. So that was one little trick where I combined both the TIG and the MIG to save something that had to look right. And you know, so now you open up this gas door, every time you put gas in there, you don't see anything wrong here. This looks factory. By the way, I upgraded all this. This is all stainless hardware. These used to be crummy sheet metal screws just threaded into that filler neck, and that's been refitted with, these are threaded. These are threaded stainless. They're never going to rust. These are all threaded stainless. They are also insulated with nylon washers, both front and back, so they're not going to break paint. Nylon washers on everything, nylon washers on everything, and this is stainless. Everything here is stainless threaded hardware. No sheet metal threads, no paint has been broken. It's all been upgraded. And I told you before, I got this upgraded stainless. The skin is stainless. The inner part, this is plain, and it's been slather coated, and this has been frame shot on the inside because this part is plain steel. The inner frame of this, only the outer skin is stainless. And also another thing is this thing fits perfectly now, but it didn't fit perfectly when I first got it. It had to be bent. If you look at it from the top, I don't know if you can see that. You see how it's not perfectly straight. It's got a wave to it, right? And that's what makes it. Without that wave to it, it's just not going to fit this opening because it's got this contour is not flat, right? It's got to match it. Well, it didn't match that, and the thing's aftermarket. I had to bend it. So basically, you know, I bent that thing. I bent that thing by hand, and oh, it's perfect now. It's factory perfect, and I just bent it. So it totally fits. It fits the hole. Looks like it's supposed to. So anyway, I guess that's enough of that. And I'm going to take it inside here. And you know, yeah, I guess I talked about everything to talk about. But like I said before, next step is next time is you're going to see these reinforcements are going to be installed. And the rockers are finished out, and I'll probably go ahead and finish out the tubs. So all the tubs will be in there, and maybe the trunk floor will be in there. Next time I make an update video, this stuff's taken me forever. You know, like I say, I'm not a professional on this. I'm a hobbyist. I have to sit here and really think a lot about just exactly how this is going to work. How am I going to work this? And I got to be real sure everything's going to fit the way it's supposed to before I pull the trigger, you know, and start making things permanent here. So, I mean, I've done a little of this before, okay? So it's definitely not my first rodeo, but I'm still a hobbyist on this. And so, yeah, I have to take my time, and that's what I'm doing, taking my time. And I have the time, and I don't work on it every single day. There's days that go by where I don't touch it, and so there's other days I'll come out here and really hit it. So anyway, yeah, I'll let you know how it all turns out. Thanks for watching. So long.